Hello, my name is Jalen Woods. I'm a senior liberal studies major at North Carolina A&T State University, and this is my social justice phenomenon assignment in my Intro to Liberal Studies course. So the first step to this assignment was to choose a social problem, and that problem that I chose is challenges facing immigrant populations. So the reason that I chose this topic was because I am directly related to immigrants who came from a different country to America. So my grandparents, the mother and father of my mom, they come from Africa. They're from Congo. They came to America, and my mother is the first generation student, first generation child born in America. So I was able to interview my grandparents and talk to them about them being in Africa and then their transition to them having to navigate being an immigrant in America, where they may not be accepted and they may not be respected in a way that they are in their hometown. So we talked about work, we talked about school, we talked about just building a family and things like that. So I want to raise awareness on the issue of discrimination and mistreatment of immigrants in professional settings in the U.S. specifically. So a lot of the discrimination and the mistreatment comes in settings um, that come in settings where the people who work there are trained to be professional and trained to show equality, but it doesn't happen. So I listed a few examples of these settings. It can be in banks, it can be in schools, it can be in job offices, and examples of things that can happen to someone who is an immigrant while they're in any of these settings can be, let's say they're applying for a job, they simply just might not get hired because they're an immigrant, because they're not American. And then also if they do end up getting hired for the job, or if they are a customer to this place, they might just have to navigate getting treated with disrespect, even though they did get chosen for the position they applied for. They could be they could be constantly disrespected and constantly mistreated within their own workplace. So a question to counter that is, why am I worthy enough to get this job, but I'm not worthy enough to receive respect as an employee within this job? So that is something that I feel like really needs to be addressed, and it's something that is a larger issue than it may seem, or than it doesn't get enough attention. It doesn't get the right amount of attention that it should, because this happens a lot. It may have happened a lot more back then. It may have happened a lot more in the past when these laws and policies were still coming into place that protects immigrants, but it is still happening today, even though these laws now exist. Um, so to address these issues, like I've been saying, there have been multiple legal protections. There have been state and local laws, workplace diversity and inclusion programs, advocacy and nonprofit, and there's been public awareness and education campaigns. So all of these things have been put together to just educate different populations about what's going on, and also they've been put in place to put a stop to these things that are happening. Examples of legal protections are the Civil Rights Act of 1964, um, which prohibits employment discrimination based on nationality. There's been the Immigration and Nationality Act, which protects against unfair immigration-related employment practices. And there's been the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which investigates and enforces claims of workplace discrimination. So as you can see, there have been multiple things that um, have been put in place to protect these immigrants and to make sure that they're comfortable, treated with respect, treated equally, things like that. Examples of workplace diversity and inclusion programs include cultural sensitivity training. There have been multilingual communication policies and employee resource groups for immigrants. So these companies have adopted diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that promote awareness of these issues. Um, Examples of advocacy and nonprofit organizations are groups like the American Civil Liberties Union, National Immigration Law Center, And there's a lot of others that advocate for immigrant rights, and they provide resources for those that continue to face discrimination. So when it comes to who I want to hear this message, who am I targeting, what's their positionality on this issue, I really want all people to be aware of this issue. I want all people to be educated on what's going on, and I really want them to do whatever they can to help out, whatever they can to make sure that they don't end up on the wrong path of mistreating someone just because they're not American. And but I specifically want to focus on those people who have the authoritative positions, who really have that type of power to um, to do these things to immigrants. And I want them to come to empathize with the immigrants who are constantly dealing with these issues. And I also want the immigrants to know that they're seen, they're cared for by someone, even if it may seem like they're going through the same motions every day, they're constantly getting disrespected. There are people out there who are fighting for their rights. There's people out there who care for them and want to see change. So, how does this issue reproduce inequality? This issue is a representation of inequality, and it's direct discrimination. It's a specific group of people being attacked, and it's a specific group of people who are singled out, and the root of the problem is simply racism. I feel like that's the simplest way to give a label to this issue. It's racism, and Americans can tend to feel like their life is worth more than someone who comes from another country, because America has always been advertised to be a place of opportunity, success, power. And when these people are seen to move to America from a different country, and you see that they're trying to chase that success, chase that power, chase those opportunities, certain groups of Americans may try to hold back, those immigrants in fear of being surpassed or being outdone in a territory that they deem as their own. And then lastly, tying in interdisciplinary studies with this topic. Interdisciplinary studies has opened my mind in a way where I'm able to look at all situations multidimensionally. And racial discrimination in the workplace is a social issue, it's a psychological issue, and it's a legal issue. It affects these people in multiple different aspects, and each of these perspectives are important when examining an issue of this magnitude. So I hope you were able to learn something new about issues immigrants face, and I hope that you were able to make change and make steps towards doing the right thing when it comes to dealing with immigrants in the United States and just their treatment. So that's my assignment.